Hello Instagram, hello YouTube, happy Valentine's Day. My name is Elena, welcome to my studio. I'm an artist, I present myself mostly as an artist on social media. And today I will be talking about an aspect of teaching and hosting workshops as an artist. I will mostly focus on some tips and just peace of mind of my experience of how I was doing it and what can help the artists when they have a workshop. The reason I wanted to record this today is because I'm actually hosting a small workshop tomorrow at one of I would say locations that are not usually used for the workshops. It's going to be a hair salon, and that's not usual circumstances where workshops, especially art workshops, are hosted. So some of the things that I would like to cover will be related specifically to how to prepare for a workshop and what do you need to know ahead of time and how to, in general, keep your mind at peace when you are doing it. Because I think that people forget that artists are not necessarily teachers. A lot of artists are very introverted, and it is hard for us to sometimes set ourselves into the right mindset to actually perform what is expected of us. So that's the main point. I'm gonna start with a few thoughts to just keep in mind. Number one, if you are an artist and you are about to host a workshop, ask yourself which audience you would like to work with. The thing is, when I'm thinking about it in general, some people like to work with adults, some people like to work with teenagers, some people like to work with children. I've had experience working with all of these populations, and I have to say that I personally enjoy most working with children because they do not have the expectation of perfection. It happens a lot with adults that when they are in the workshop, they have issue with even starting doing something. So you really have to walk them through step by step. Even like it takes a lot of scaffolding, just like explaining how you go from step A to step B and why, and it's just a lot of support. Adults a lot of time need way more support than children do. I do think that it would be fun and interesting to try all of the audiences before you actually set your mind, because really you don't know which audience will work out the best for you. You could you could host one workshop like with adults and then next day do the same one with the children and see how you feel about each of the audiences, right? Tomorrow I will be having one workshop for children and one workshop for adults, and we will be creating something in relation with Valentine's theme. And that is another topic that I would like to cover, is pick the subject. And when you are picking the subject, please do not make another sakura tree. Another cherry blossom tree. We've had enough of the cherry blossom trees. I really, okay, if you're only starting and you want to have something super simple that everyone can replicate, of course, by all means, go ahead and do that. But I would like to kind of poke you in the direction of trying to see what is it that you want to make, what is it that you want to teach to make, what is it that you want to explore to make that will also make you feel good about what it is that you are creating and what it is that you are putting out there and what experience you are providing for your audience, for your students. So if we have decided that number one, let's say I want to work with, I don't know, adults. Let's say I want to work with adults and then sip and paint, right? That's actually another reason why adults love sip and paint, because to paint they need to sit. So yeah, all I'm saying is, let's say you decided on your audience, right? You know what is it, who are the people that you will be working with. Make sure that you do not allow for too big of a classroom right away. Especially when you are starting, right? I know that when we are starting doing something, and everybody knows that, we think that in theory we know how it actually will go, but we don't know in practice how it will go. Like, for example, right now I'm streaming on YouTube. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing on Instagram. It's really, really odd to just sit in front of myself and talk to myself, and I sound way different from what I am actually in real life. I don't sound like that. So I will probably have to record, I don't know, at least 20 to 30 streams to be able to understand what I actually am as a public speaker on my own, just on YouTube or just on Instagram, to get used to this feeling of talking to myself on a screen and then posting it, right? So same thing with workshops, same thing with anything else. You want to decide how many classes it is that you want to teach to get the practice of teaching, so that you develop the flow. So once you know your audience, and once you set up your expectations for yourself of what is it that I want to paint, please make sure that you go down and set up for all of the materials that you want. I think I could probably write a long text about all of the materials and all of the things and all of the supplies that you need, but I'm not going to do that because nobody's going to read that. I know that most of the people nowadays consume information through videos when they are doing something else, and this is why I'm streaming here, and this is why I'm learning to and exploring this new media. Yeah, do I have a book that taught me a lot of things that I know right now? Yes, but I was reading this book about 7 years ago. It's called Art Inc. And if you are interested in that, I totally recommend this book. But if you are nowadays trying to learn something, you're definitely learning through the streaming. You're learning through when you're walking in the gym, when you're working out at the gym, when you are washing dishes, when you are walking with kids. This is when we're listening to things, right? And this is how we learn. So this is why I decided to pivot to recording long-form podcasts and then streaming them on different channels and see what's going to happen with that. Well, anyway, let me get back to the questions, right? Number one, as artists, we need to know which audience we are working with. Let's say you know you're working with adults, right? Then number two, you know what is it that you are making. And before you actually teach that workshop, sit down and do this craft yourself, unless you have taught this before. Because sometimes in our brain, we're thinking that something will take 20 minutes, but in reality, it actually takes 40 minutes. Or something will take way shorter time, right? But people are not thinking like artists in terms of the project. They are thinking in terms of the time that they paid for the experience. Thank you. But so you want to think kind of like from the outside. What is it that they are expecting to get at the end? And which amount of time are they expecting to get it? If you are working with children, for example, maybe the parents have planned specifically 1 hour of their child to be occupied, and they will come and pick their child up from you specifically when you're done. And if you have not planned your lesson, if you have not structured your lesson, you might end up with one child who finishes early and another child who finishes later. The same with adults, really. They may have made the plans already. They booked specifically 1.5 hours or 2 hours for that activity. And if they're done earlier than expected or later than expected, well, that sometimes can ruin the plans. How did I even get into working with workshops, right? I believe that whenever I am hosting an art event, and by an art event I mean showing my paintings, right? I have a wall set up with my paintings or some sort of a walkthrough where you can see my actual work. I also like to hold a workshop during that time because I believe that people don't really just appreciating the painting is nice, but engaging with some sort of a creative activity actually helps build the bridge better and tighter with your audience, potential buyers, potential workshop takers, if that is even the term. So I think it's important for any artist to be able to host some sort of a workshop, even if teaching is not your primary source of income. Let's say you have found a space. Let's say you have set up your paintings. Always book about 3 to 4 hours for the setup. I know that a lot of bloggers online say that just 1 hour is enough. Maybe it does become 1 hour if you have already experienced setting up at least once or twice a month. So then you build this habit. You already know everything that it is that you need, and maybe you have a truck that helps you bring all of your work. A lot of my artwork, for example, is quite big, so I need to make sure that if I do not have a friend who might help me with a truck, I need to book the time driving my small car back and forth to the venue and setting up, right? So just the back and forth time driving sometimes it does take a toll on you, and then by the time you are all set up, you are already exhausted, and you cannot be exhausted before teaching, because teaching takes a lot of emotional work, and we don't talk about it. We don't really discuss it that much, but teaching is, I would say, at least 50, if not 60% emotional work. You need to coach your audience. You need to coach the people who came to take the workshop into understanding and also into enjoying the process of what they are doing. Because if they're not enjoying the process, they are not going to be enjoying the workshop ultimately, and even the result will feel like something, okay, I did this, I done this thing, check mark, but it doesn't ideally bring them back to you again when you host a workshop again. And this is where we kind of get to the question of like, where do you get the participants for the workshops? I have to say that I just need to send one text message to one of my clients that I have already taught before or I've had an experience before, and I will have at least 20 people filling in the workshop spaces for me. And then I will have the adults and the children class, or just 2 children classes. Simply because I was following this very important principle of not just teaching, but also careful coaching with enjoyment, right? And how do we get to the point when we are enjoying the workshop? We need to know, number one, what is it that we are teaching? We need to create the support, the base support for ourselves through going through the craft before you teach it. Number 3, I would say, and which is very, very important, create something that you also enjoy creating. Don't just take a picture online that, I don't know, there's this multicolored, like a cherry blossom tree. Well, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the workshop themes that keep going again and again and again and again and keep repeating themselves again and again and again and again. But are you enjoying creating that? Because if you are not enjoying it and you are the central figure in teaching it, your audience will also not enjoy that. So that's important. How do you get the audience for your workshops if you do not have, let's say, the clientele base that you already have established before? I found a platform like Nextdoor being very useful, and I have found that any local social apps, any local Facebook apps are also quite useful. So you can definitely create the flyer and share that flyer everywhere that you can think of in terms of Nextdoor. Local libraries also sometimes do wonders. Very often, some of the local libraries in Illinois, I'm not sure about California. Unfortunately, I did not find that option here yet, but I know that in Illinois, I was able to rent space for the art class through the library at a very affordable price, as long as you can present what it is that you want to teach, and what is the structure of your lesson and who is the audience. They are willing to help you and advertise you through the community, because then it creates better connection, better engagement for everyone who is participating in that. So that's it. What else did I want to say is that how do you promote your workshops? That is probably the question I have just answered, is that you want to do it in both ways. You want to promote online, obviously, with all of the local apps, and offline if you have the clientele from offline. I think a lot of artists have the issue nowadays with offline because of the flu that we have all experienced in 2020, right? That we all prefer to forget today. So there was a lot of movement, a lot of artists changed places. So I think social apps do work the best at this point. Also, I think it's important to think of workshops as not just the primary goal of the event, but as a cherry on top of your event. So if you have the venue, you found space to display your art, talk to the owner if you want to also teach a workshop, for example, for an hour, one of the days that you are showing. I am sure that they would understand the idea that people just passing by the paintings and just looking at the paintings for 10-15 minutes tops would probably not result in a higher sale for them, comparing to the situation when you are teaching something or doing some simple craft while people are also coming. I think people in general are always very curious about the artist, not just the artwork itself. If you think about it, whenever people buy art, they buy your emotions. And this is why I truly believe in the actual art made by hand, in terms of like watercolors, be it acrylics, be it gouache, be it any other medium that is not AI, because AI can create a glossy picture. It can create a pretty picture, but it is not alive. It does not have a soul. It does not have the emotion, the connection that we are seeking in the piece of art. So think about it this way. When you are teaching a workshop during an event that you are hosting, you are creating the bridge between you and your audience, who can then potentially come back for another workshop at the minimum, or purchase something from you, starting from the prints and going all the way up to the actual work. And by actual work, I mean a big format work that is more expensive than the art prints or other materials. So really, when you are teaching your workshop, always bring your merchandise with. Always bring an extra table just for the merchandise. So what I usually do is I have 3 tables that I set up in a, in a U form. And then I always have a table set up behind me with things that people may purchase if they'd like, or they can look at if they'd like. And then the walls are usually decorated with my actual paintings. So you are working on multiple layers, and you are working with your audience, connecting with them on multiple layers. They can connect with you as an artist, but that's really a very unique experience. There are not so many people nowadays who can actually just look at the art and appreciate the art for the sake of art. Not think about their own experiences, but maybe that too, but to actually appreciate the art, I think you need to be able to kind of stand out of your box of thinking. You need to be able to just process, just allow yourself to be next to that artwork, kind of breathe it in, consume it, let it be around you. That's an extra skill. That's like meta skill that a lot of people do not have. A lot of people only see just a pretty picture when they see the art. And this is it. This is all they see. And this is also okay. I'm not saying that this is not normal, right? But If you only provide that, if you only provide the painting that is requiring that extra meta skill set to be able to see and feel and consume and be consumed, then other layers on which it is very much easier to connect are not really provided. So as an artist, I would suggest always bring something that people can connect with on an easier level. If they want a piece of your emotion, a piece of your art, but they cannot afford to buy a huge painting, have your prints ready. I always have my art books and prints with me. If they are only there for the workshop itself, then you are also providing another way for them to connect with you. So I'm just going to sum it up real quickly, and I will keep going on to the other questions that I saw here from Instagram from before. Define your audience, understand who you work with, right? Find a project that you enjoy doing, because your enjoyment will be contagious while you are working on it. Number 3, plan at least 4 hours for setup. 3 to 4 hours. If your show is at 2, you need to be setting up at 10. You need to start planning to set up at 10, because what if you forget something, you have to drive back. A lot of it is big physical media. What if something doesn't fit in the car? You have to make another trip, all of those things, right? Do that. Write yourself a list of things you need to bring. Always bring an extra table for the art for the small merchandise that you can sell. Postcards, prints, clothes, I don't know, whatever it is that you are selling. And then once you have all of that set up, right, decide on sorry, it's really, really unusual for me to be talking to myself and recording this on this platform. So I'll get there. I think I'll get there at some point. Make sure that you enjoy the process and not just teach it, right? So you have your project done prior to the fact that you are teaching it. Get ready to explain every little thing that does not come natural to you. Like, I don't know, when I work with watercolors, I don't think about how to work with watercolors, but definitely for the people who are just taking the workshop for the first time, watercolors may be quite intimidating. I love working with watercolors, and this is why I host workshops with watercolors. And I've heard it so many times that after the workshop that I have hosted, Elena, why didn't I know that this is so much fun? I just had a class today that I taught with my 5-year-olds, and we did a whole bunch of clouds with salt on the top with watercolors, and they loved every second of it. And it turned out really, really nice, right? So yes, enjoy what it is that you're teaching. If you're not going to be enjoying it, it's not going to go well. It will feel like work. As an artist, you do not want the workshops to become one of those things that are also feeling like, okay, now I'm just working because I have to pay the rent, right? That's not something that's not the feeling you want to get from your art. So that's important. For the enjoyment though, I think a lot of people forget that we do need structure, we need a schedule, we need discipline, we need all of those things that we can rely on to be able to enjoy things, right? So yes, know who you work with, plan your art ahead of time, make sure you have other means to connect with you. May it be looking at your paintings, may it be buying some merchandise from you, may it be actually attending workshop from you. Make sure you have some sort of a form. I would say set up a Google form to sign up for the next workshop whenever it comes up. So you keep collecting the list of people who are signing up for your workshop as you are teaching, because they may be are passing by just looking at your artwork, but they want to sign up for the next one and they don't have the means to do that. Also, they will not follow you on Instagram. I mean, they may follow you on Instagram, but they will not actually follow you as in let me monitor every single thing this artist is doing that I randomly saw somewhere at a cafe shop 10 days ago. That is not how it works. Most people don't actually engage with their Instagram in general these days. That's just what I see. Like, the only engagement that I see is either long-term format or when you are contacting them directly, right? So if they do sign up for your sign up letter or any kind of a notification system that you establish, that next time when I am hosting this workshop, I'm going to be emailing these people, and they already were able to write down their email and they will see the invitation in their email. And believe me, it is really nice to see a nice personalized note from a local artist who is inviting you to have some fun and paint together next Saturday night. That is way better than just blindly trying to attack all of the social media that we can find. It's also good. It's good to do, and I think we should be doing it. But try to create your community who appreciate your art in particular. And yes, to do all of that, you need discipline, you need support, you need steady schedule, and you need consistent work that you put in. Okay, what else do I have here? What materials and tools do you usually provide, and how do you budget for them? So there are some tools and materials that I think every artist should have just stored, which are just paints that are still nice but at a cheaper level grade. For example, I'm not teaching oil workshops because I know is going to be very expensive, right? I paint in oils, so I buy expensive materials for myself. But for the workshops, I am not buying anything super expensive. I usually go to Jerry Artarama. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Jerry Artarama is a good source to go because they do not have a physical store. You are going online and you're buying it as it is. It's all good quality. It's not like secondhand or anything like that, but you can't firsthand witness what is it that you are buying. So that's one downside. But if you are already an artist and you're teaching, I think at this level you already understand what kind of paints you need, right? But in general, what you need is you need to have canvases that you can buy. I usually get them in bulk also, either from Jerry or Rama or Amazon. But really, I do not think that I will give you any new information at this point. Like, I buy them, this one is 12 pack, because tomorrow I will have about 10 students, and this is just a couple extra, just in case it doesn't work out. Yeah. What else? What pricing strategy do you use when you are deciding how much you are going to ask to pay for the class? So there are a few things to consider. And I'm really not, as an artist, math is not my major, obviously. But I would like to emphasize this. Number one, count all of the materials that you have bought for this workshop. Usually you would also keep that receipt in case you want to expense it at your tax report later. If you are a professional artist or a teacher, doesn't matter. You should definitely keep all of the receipts for your tax purposes. So look at what you have bought for this workshop. Look at what you have already had that you bought before that you will also use for that workshop. And then see how much you usually pay yourself per hour. So these are the numbers that you should consider when you are deciding on the price. Look at one thing about workshops that is tricky is that you can't 100% rely on every single person showing up. So if you have a workshop planned for 10 people, plan for 5 people in terms of payment, just to be on a safe side. So if you have 10 people on the list, but only 5 of them show up, the price that they pay for the class should satisfy you from the perspective of going there, setting up for 3 hours, hanging everything up, teaching, planning, all of those things, right? So I know that a lot of bloggers are suggesting looking at other classes and comparing yourself and all of those things. I do not have the time for this research. I know what I'm making usually per hour. I am comparing it to how I feel about making a little more or a little less depending on the crowd, and this is where I place my price. I really do not have the time to study how much is the workshop on cherry blossoms around me somewhere. Watch me doing cherry blossoms after that. That would be funny. Okay. Was there an... Wait, what was there? No, that's not it. Was there any interesting feedback from the participants that you have utilized after? There is one feedback that I did get, which I have not utilized yet. So the setting was that I had an art event set up. So I had my paintings hanging, I had my merchandise separated by categories for children and not for children set up. I had my workshop in front of it, teaching it. And then one of the ladies asked me, can I read in general about your art somewhere? But I cannot, I don't feel, her English was not her first language, so she needed something that would translate it for her. So I thought it would be fun to, next time when I have a bigger event like that, to record a video about the art event and to have a, what do you call those things? The QR code, clicking on which would take you to my video explaining something with where you can put subtitles and translate it with the apps that we have right now on Google Translator, and there's one more. I forgot the name of the app right now, but like it would be more accessible, more interesting, more understandable for people who are experiencing the actual show. This is something extra. It does take a lot of effort, but I was thinking it would be fun to actually record what this art event is about and then utilize it somewhere else as well, like other social media platforms. Okay, and I talked about the planning and organizing. Yeah, well, I think I'm going to be wrapping it up here. This is my second live stream video on Instagram and YouTube. If you have successfully completed your steps for the day, thanks for listening to me, or working out of the day, or washing your dishes of the day, it means a lot to me that you spend a little bit of time with me. So please give me a heart, subscribe, send it to someone who is going to host the workshop, and of course, write to me in the comments if you have any further questions. This was a very exprompt video. I have given myself a promise to stream at least once in 2 weeks on Instagram or YouTube, because I can see how long-term format really, with no special effects, is like the best thing that people can really consume nowadays, because we are just so tired and overwhelmed that we cannot watch any more of the short videos. Oh, and yes, this is my message to the algorithm of YouTube or Instagram. Please show me to people who are interested in art, who are interested in teaching art and art workshops, who are interested in hosting their art events, and also to the people who have a longer short span and who can go ahead and listen for something for about an hour. Okay. Well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody, and I'm going to be stopping right here. and I will be uploading and saving this video in case it is going to be useful to someone else. Bye bye.